Welcome to IU News. I'm Leila Masimova. Here's top stories. U.S. Congress formally certifies Donald Trump's presidential election win, completing the final step before his January 20 inauguration. U.S. allows transactions with governing institutions in Syria despite sanctions. A strong earthquake in Tibet kills dozens of people, with tremors felt across the neighboring regions. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev has accused Russia of trying to cover up details surrounding the tragic plane crash involving Azerbaijan Airlines in late December. Aliyev made his remarks while meeting with survivors and the families of victims.
Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev met with survivors and the families of the victims of the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash, which occurred on the 25th of December. After the crash, Russia's President Vladimir Putin apologized to Aliyev for what the Kremlin called a tragic incident over Russia, in which the Azerbaijani Airlines plane crashed after Russian air defenses were fired against Ukrainian drones. In response to Russia's handling of the aftermath, Aliyev voiced his concerns about the lack of proper airspace closures and the failure to alert the flight crew.
Dekabrın 29'unda bildirdiğim bir məqamı bir daha diqqətinizə çatdırmaq istəyirəm. Grozny şəhərində kavior əməliyyatı, yəni ki, hava sahəsinin bağlanması.
I would like to bring to your attention one point that I stated on the 29th of December. In Grozny, the Kovior operation, i.e., an operation to close the airspace, was announced after the plane was shot at from the ground. This once again shows that there are very serious criminal issues here. Usually, if there is a threat to the airspace of any country, the airspace of that country is immediately closed. This happens in all countries and has different names. In Russia, it is called Kovior operation. If there was a threat to Russian airspace, the captain of the plane should have been informed about it immediately. The airspace should have been closed immediately and the plane should have turned back. I should also note that about 10 days before the accident, a similar incident occurred near the city of Grozny. An Azal plane was turned back halfway. Why was the crew not warned about it this time? Naturally, the investigation will show this. I want to say again that the information we have is based on the truth.
Azerbaijan's president also criticized Russian state agencies for focusing on speculative theories, which he called a cover-up of the true causes.
I want to say again that the information we have is based on the truth. The cover-up of this incident by Russian state agencies and the focus on absurd theories causes surprise, regret, and rightful indignation. Innocent people died. I repeat that it is precisely thanks to the heroism of the pilots and crew members that about 30 people survived this accident, several of whom were seriously injured. I should also note that the majority of those killed in the accident were Azerbaijani citizens. At the same time, citizens of Russia and Kazakhstan also died. Citizens of Kyrgyzstan were injured.
Qəza nəticəsində ən çox həlak olan Azərbaycan vətəndaşlarıdır. Eyni zamanda Rusiya və Qazaxstan vətəndaşları da həlak olub. Qırğızstan vətəndaşları isə yaralanmışdır.
Aliyev highlighted the preliminary findings of the investigation, which suggest external interference, including electronic warfare and ground fire. He also stressed the critical role of the crew's professionalism, which saved the lives of many passengers.
Ekipaj üzvlərinin qəhrəmanlığı haqqında mən vida mərasimi zamanı
I spoke about the heroism of the crew members during the farewell ceremony. I want to say again that this is a truly great sacrifice. I said that most likely the pilots knew that they would not survive this accident. They were experienced pilots, and thanks purely to their professionalism, they managed to bring the plane, which was out of control, down somehow, even though it had to make an emergency landing. They were able to land the plane. The other members of the crew, the flight attendants, also showed composure. They showed great courage to prevent chaos on the plane. They also saw and knew what awaited them. They probably did not even hope that they would be able to get out of this situation safely. To behave with restraint, composure, and courage in such a situation, of course, once again demonstrates their high qualities, especially considering that 2 of the flight attendants were women.
President Aliyev also expressed his condolences to the families of the victims, reaffirming Azerbaijan's commitment to ensuring justice. He insisted that the crash could have been avoided had the necessary precautions been taken to secure the airspace near Grozny.
The US Congress formally certified President-elect Donald Trump's victory in the November 5 election, completing the final step before his January 20 inauguration. Vice President Kamala Harris, who lost to Trump in November, presided over the Senate session to certify the election results, which proceeded without incident. This stood in stark contrast to the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Trump secured 312 Electoral College votes, while Harris received 226. Security was heightened, with metal fences and police checkpoints at the Capitol, set to remain in place until Trump's inauguration on January 20th. A winter storm brought heavy snow and freezing temperatures to over 60 million people across the U.S. Indiana, Ohio, and the Mid-Atlantic are bracing for up to 30 centimeters of snow and icy conditions.
Indiana's first snowstorm of the year hit on Sunday, blanketing the state with heavy snow and freezing temperatures. The National Weather Service issued a winter storm warning through Monday evening, predicting snow accumulations of 15 to 23 centimeters, along with a glaze of ice. This storm affected over 60 million people across more than a dozen states, from Kansas to New Jersey, bringing snow, ice, and freezing conditions. Cincinnati, Ohio was particularly hard hit, with snowfall expected to reach 18 to 25 centimeters. Other major cities, including Indianapolis, Washington, and Philadelphia, closed schools in advance due to the storm's impact. The storm is moving toward the mid-Atlantic, with Washington, D.C., bracing for heavy snow and bitter cold as the U.S. Congress prepares to certify Donald Trump's election as president on Monday. Blizzard conditions were reported in Kansas and northwestern Missouri, where roads were covered in snow and ice, prompting warnings to avoid travel. Freezing rain in parts of Kentucky and West Virginia created hazardous ice accumulations. As the storm moves out, Arctic air will follow, with temperatures minus 12 to minus 6 degrees Celsius below average across much of the East Coast and Great Plains. Several states, including Kansas and Kentucky, have declared states of emergency.
U.S. Envoy Amos Hochstein expresses optimism about the progress of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah. After meetings with Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati and Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri, Hochstein reaffirmed U.S. support for the agreement. Earlier, he visited Nagora in southern Lebanon to oversee the ceasefire implementation with Major General Jasper Jeffers.
The same work that led to the withdrawal today of the Israeli military will continue. And therefore, that is what will enable the next phase, which we're now focused on, which is to withdraw from the next sector of territory, and then after that, the final one. So this is going according to the plan, maybe not according to exact expectations of everybody in Lebanon or Israel, but we have 20 days left to reach the 60 days. We are going to continue the same work that led to the successful deployment and withdrawal.
Elon Musk criticised the UK government over the weekend, accusing officials of mishandling child sex abuse cases. In response, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer stated that Musk had crossed the line, claiming he was spreading lies and misinformation. Ollie Barrett brings more on that from London.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer gave a major speech on Monday about healthcare, but it was actually Elon Musk that almost all of the questions from journalists focused on, and that's because the US-based billionaire has been posting for days now criticism of Keir Starmer and some of his ministers about their record when it comes to the UK scandal around so-called grooming gangs. Keir Starmer, though, mounting a defence of his record and also the record of his safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, on the issue. Keir Starmer saying that much of the criticism that's been coming the way of his government is based on what he called lies and misinformation, and he also criticised people for jumping on what he called the bandwagon of the far right. Elon Musk has been vocal in his views that Keir Starmer and Jess Phillips, he believes, should, according to his posts on social media, be jailed for their record when it comes to grooming gangs here in Britain. But Keir Starmer pointing to his own record when he was the Director of Public Prosecutions around child sexual abuse, and also saying that he believes that his safeguarding minister Jess Phillips has a very strong record on that issue as well. The reason that Jess Phillips came in for criticism from Elon Musk was a refusal, initially at least, to hold a public inquiry around one of the scandals in the English town of Oldham related to so-called grooming gangs or rape gangs. Now, she insisted at the time that that was because there had been several other inquiries looking into issues around child sexual abuse, but Elon Musk has been one of those online suggesting that that was a misstep by the UK's safeguarding minister. It was interesting with Keir Starmer's defence of his own record and that of Jess Phillips on this issue that he didn't himself mention Elon Musk by name. And the UK government is now trying to strike a delicate balance here. It wants to hit back when criticised, particularly over issues like grooming gangs in Britain, but it doesn't want to get too much drawn into a war of words directly with Elon Musk himself. And if Elon Musk were simply the owner of a social media platform, then it might try to ignore some of the criticism that he is putting out online. But Elon Musk, of course, is set to be a key member of the incoming administration of the President-elect Donald Trump. So it's a diplomatic issue for the UK as well. But Keir Starmer trying to mount a defence on behalf of his ministerial colleagues and his government and his personal record when it comes to grooming gangs in the UK. This is a scandal that has been revealed over a period of years related to a series of English towns and cities where gangs of predominantly British Pakistani men had been abusing vulnerable young women and girls. Elon Musk has picked it up online as an issue in recent days and has been very vocal, as I say, in terms of his criticism of the UK government, has even called for Keir Starmer to be replaced as Prime Minister. But Keir Starmer hitting back today, although, as I say, not mentioning Elon Musk at this stage by name. Ollie Barrett for A News in London.
We now turn to our Brussels correspondent William Danslow, who has more reactions on Musk's messages to Europeans.
A spokesperson for the European Commission says that while it's Elon Musk's right to express his own political views online, his social media site X must operate within legal boundaries. Musk was heavily involved in Donald Trump's successful US presidential election campaign, but has increasingly weighed in on European politics over recent weeks. Norway's Prime Minister said Monday he's worried that someone with access to social media and huge economic resources is involved so directly in the political affairs of other nations. Germans head to the polls on February 23rd, and Musk is set to soon host a live discussion on X with Chancellor candidate for the right-wing Alternative for Germany party, Alice Weidel. He's previously called the AfD the last spark of hope for the country, and a spokesperson for the German government says the upcoming audio livestream is part of a campaign to influence the federal election. The European Commission says it's Musk's right to host such online forums, but it's currently investigating the social media site, accusing it of failing to sufficiently counter misinformation and illegal content. The Commission calls it an unprecedented situation, adding that they want to make sure social media isn't misused to give certain political groups preferential treatment. William Denslow for A News in Brussels.
Syria's new Trade Minister Maher Khalil al-Hassan said US sanctions are blocking fuel and wheat imports, warning of a catastrophe unless they are lifted. Sanctions imposed during Assad's rule targeted his government and state institutions. The caretaker government formed by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham after ousting Bashar al-Assad in December has secured short-term supplies. Russia and Iran, once major suppliers of wheat and oil, halted support after Assad's ousting. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is poised to ease restrictions on humanitarian aid to Syria, allowing for more rapid delivery of basic supplies without fully lifting sanctions on the new government in Damascus. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. The limited step involves US Treasury Department waivers for aid groups and companies offering essential services such as water, electricity and other humanitarian supplies, but it falls short of a broader sanctions rollback. Washington remains cautious about withdrawing the comprehensive sanctions imposed during Syria's 13th civil war. According to the Wall Street Journal, the US wants assurances that new leadership in Damascus will protect the rights of women and religious of ethnic minorities. A strong earthquake in Tibet has left communities shaken and rescue teams scrambling. As the region grapples with the aftermath, neighboring countries are also on alert due to the widespread tremors.
A powerful 6.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the northern foothills of the Himalayas, with its epicenter located in Tingri, a rural Chinese county known as the northern gateway to the Everest region. The tremors, which reached neighboring countries, caused significant damage and loss of life. In Tibet's Latsi County, streets were covered in debris as buildings were destroyed and people were left injured. Nearly 100 people were confirmed dead and 100 others were injured on the Tibetan side, according to China's state-run news agency Xinhua. The US Geological Service placed the quake's magnitude at 7.1. The tremors were also felt in Kathmandu, Nepal's capital. Residents fled their homes as the earthquake's effects reached nearly 400 kilometers away. The tremors were also felt in neighboring Bhutan and India, where buildings shook, though there were no immediate reports of significant damage or casualties in these regions. In Nepal, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority reported that the tremors were felt across 7 hill districts bordering Tibet. A series of aftershocks have hit China's Xinjiang Autonomous Region, and further tremors could be possible in the region, said the China Earthquake Network Center.
The demonstration, which began 40 days ago against the suspension of Georgia's accession negotiations to the European Union for 4 years, continued in Tbilisi during the Orthodox Christian Christmas holiday.
While Orthodox Christians in Georgia are celebrating Christmas, the protests that began after the parliamentary elections held on October 26 and escalated due to the government's decision regarding the EU continued in Tbilisi for the 40th day despite the holiday. Those who wanted to celebrate Christmas in a demonstration gathered in front of the parliament building at night. The demonstrators carrying EU and Georgian flags and candles for the holiday marched through the streets of Tbilisi. They closed Shota Rustaveli Avenue in front of the parliament, calling for new parliamentary elections. The European Union, United States, former Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili and the opposition do not accept the parliamentary elections won by the ruling Georgian Dream Party and are reacting to the government's suspension of the start of EU accession negotiations. The United States and some European countries have imposed sanctions on Georgian government officials.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia's losses in the Kursk region have reached 38,000 soldiers, with almost 15,000 of this being classified as irreversible. The Ukrainian president stated that the Kursk operation, which began in August, had successfully created a buffer zone, preventing Russian forces from advancing into critical areas of eastern Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia's National Guard released footage of the weekend claiming they repelled a Ukrainian offensive in the Kursk region. The Russian Defense Ministry also stated that their forces had disrupted Ukrainian attempts to breach their defenses. And now to Sudan, where due to the ongoing conflict, humanitarian crisis is worsening as hundreds of thousands of displaced people seek refuge in the region. Our Naba Muheddin from Port Sudan has the latest updates on the issue.
The Sudanese army says it rebelled a fresh attack launched by the RSF in the east and southwest of Al-Fashir. Clashes between the two sides in Al-Fashir had died down over the last few weeks, but reports say the RSF continued bombarding civilian and military targets there. Attacks using heavy artillery and drones were reported, and again, according to reports, there have been a large number of civilian casualties. The joint force have also deployed large troops to the border areas with Libya in recent months, after intercepting two convoys accompanied by Libyan and apparently Colombian mercenaries. Al-Fashir is the last stronghold of the Sudanese army and the joint force since the onset of war, but the RSF controls 4 out of Darfur's states. Hundreds of thousands of displaced people have fled to the area, and the humanitarian crisis is deepening. Despite the mounting calls by the international community to cease the hostilities in Al-Fashir, fighting has not stopped. Naba Muheddin for News in Port Sudan.
Tech innovators from around the world gathered in Las Vegas for CES 2025, showcasing the latest in AI, VR and health tech. However, the concerns over new tariffs from President-elect Trump are casting a shadow over the event.
At CES 2025 in Las Vegas, tech innovators are unveiling the newest gadgets aimed at transforming everyday life. The health tech is making a splash with products like a device designed to help the elderly maintain muscle strength by simulating yoga movements.
This is particularly good for elderly and patients that cannot work out on their own or work out independently. So just like this, up and down. The arms go up till 95-degree angle and legs go up 96-degree angle.
Meanwhile, virtual reality and AI tools continue to push the boundaries of immersive experiences. HoloConnect is demonstrating how AI and holograms can revolutionize communication, allowing remote employees and loved ones to interact as if they were in the same room.
Yeah, well, we use it for educational purposes. Imagine having a teacher being presented from one centralized location where I stand, but being presented in like 10 or 20 locations, doing a class and having feedback with students in those 20 locations. And we also now have new customers, which are like customers that use it as a home device to bring in their mother, to bring in their daughter or a loved one as a live hologram into their room.
Among the highlights in the robot, an AI robotic pet that mimics a real dog, responding to touch and even recognizing its owner.
This is the robot, and the name is robot, means the AI robotic pet. It's like a real cat dog. You can touch it, it will feel your touching, and it can recognize you and recognize all kinds of items. If you can try to build some long-term relationship with human beings, in those who is friend, who is strangers, and try to play with you.
However, as tech companies push forward with these innovations, they face a growing uncertainty. President-elect Donald Trump's proposed tariffs on imports from China, Mexico and Canada are a major concern, especially for automakers. Honda has warned that permanent tariffs could force them to reconsider their production strategies, potentially shifting more operations to the US in an effort to avoid higher input costs. Industry experts worry these tariffs could disrupt the global supply chain and increase the price of new technology.
That's all for now, but don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to AE News for more exclusive updates. We'll be back soon.